Stories Heal Everything is a series designed to shed light on various women's issues and how we navigate those issues by the grace of God the Father as our compass. When a woman tells her story, mountains move out of the way. Baby, she speaks.
Hi, my name is Crystal. I'm 44 and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Something to know about me, I'm probably the GOAT of funny dates. I have had all types of experiences since I've been dating, particularly in the last couple of years. Super excited about where things are going. I am a woman who speaks, and I believe stories heal everything.
I am 50 years old. I live in Tampa, Florida. My dating experiences have been like a roller coaster, literally up and down. And I'm at the point where I'm wondering, do I even need to be dating at all? But I'm sure that, God is going to reveal his plan for me as it relates to dating, as it relates to relationships. And I'm excited about that. My name is Stephanie. I am a woman who speaks, and I believe that stories heal everything.
I am in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm 50 years old, and I consider myself a late bloomer when it comes to dating. And I'm interested to know how dating is actually going to look for me at this stage in my life. My name is Erica. I'm a woman who speaks, and I believe that stories heal everything.
I am in Tampa, Florida. I am 44 years old. I would say, as it relates to my dating life, God truly has a sense of humor. I have, it's been a lot of transition for me, so I'm really looking forward to what's ahead. My name is Kim, and I'm a woman who speaks, and I believe that stories heal everything.
Hi, my name's Michelle Hyacinth. I'm 62 years old, live in Wesley Chapel, Florida. I haven't dated in years, in over 30 years. I just feel that people I run into, it's not the right fit. So I guess I'm out of the dating scene for now, which I'm not happy with. My name's Michelle, and I'm a woman who speaks, and I believe that stories heal everything.
All right. Well, welcome, ladies. Welcome to She Speaks, our dating over 40 episode. I'm so excited to have with me today Crystal from Atlanta, Georgia, Erica Thomas from West Palm Beach, Florida, Michelle Hyacinth in Wesley Chapel, Florida, and Kimberly Hemingway in Tampa, Florida. And again, I'm Stephanie Outen, and I am the creator of She Speaks, and I'm in Tampa, Florida. And we are talking about dating over 40. A topic that all of us have some experiences in, whether good or bad. And I definitely want us to be able to talk about that. So this is free flowing. We're going to talk about, our dating experiences, whether they've been, varied, whether it's been a long time, whether you date on a regular basis, or we're also going to talk about where are you finding these men? That's been a problem that a lot of women have, and people have said, like, I have no idea even how to find a man. And so I want us to be able to talk about those things and really share so that other women who are over 40, who might be in a situation where they're currently dating and having challenges in the dating process, not dating, and want to know how can they actually put themselves out there. And if they are out there and they're not really finding the right fit, then what could it be that's causing that? Right. And a lot of times there might be some things that we haven't thought about internally that could actually be attracting the wrong people to us. So I want us to just kind of talk about some of those things. So ladies, you can come off of mute and let's just start dialoguing. Crystal, I want to hear from you. As one of our resident daters, I want to hear what has been your experience. You are 44 years old. What's been some of your experiences with dating?
Well, it's been interesting. So I'll say that in this very moment, I'm not actively dating. I just recently ended a very long relationship that took up most of my 40s. And so some of the stories that I'll share will be me coming right up on my 40th birthday, or just kind of what has happened in the time frame between myself and that person, maybe taking a break from one another. It's been interesting though. My experience has been, it has not been difficult for me to meet individuals. And it's in Atlanta in particular, you hear you'll never find a man, you'll never meet anybody, these types of stories. But I can't say that I've had that experience.
Well,
I
you're
meet
gorgeous. So I'm sure men are just, I was like, you're gorgeous. So men are probably just like falling at your feet.
I appreciate that compliment. Thank you. And I received it. But I have found I have met a lot of people who were not serious. And so that's been like the problem. So we're going to skip my last relationship for now, and we'll see if that swirls back in. And we'll just start with kind of what I was meeting before. So I've met people in a variety of different ways, because I know that was one of the things that we had talked, that you referenced. And my most successful experiences have been just meeting people face to face in everyday life, and being open and having the right energy to, draw someone in and attract someone. I've tried dating online. That is where these horror stories come from.
Yes.
So Kim is laughing because she's been here through. I've had a guy who likes to dress in a Batman onesie. I don't know why. Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
A Batman onesie.
What, just like in regular, like on dates?
Batman, no, just around the house, and that's his thing. And I just had to let him have that.
Okay. I have been here with her on these experiences.
Yes, these are real experiences. Yes. I've had a guy who. So let's back up to my Plenty of Fish days, or to my online. Let's just say my online dating days, so that we don't actually vilify a particular online platform. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to be open. I'm going to give myself an experience to just warm back up to dating. Let me get out there, just get comfortable, with that masculine energy around me, go out, have some fun, and just, see who comes my way. The first date out, the gentleman takes me on a coffee date. I typically don't go on coffee dates, but that's not what this is about. But I said, okay, I'm going to be open. I'm going to go on this coffee date. The gentleman takes a phone out in the midst of the coffee date. He has two phones. He proceeds to watch NBA League Pass on our date. Yeah, and he's just watching it. I'm like, is there something that you need to be doing? Would you like to end the date? Wow. Like, what's the what of it? So, politely excuse myself from that date. So I said, okay, I'm going to try again, meet the Batman onesie guy. No, that's not going to work out. We're just going to have to dismiss you, because I just can't date grown men who wear children's pajamas.
Right.
Then we move on to another guy who just attempts to just, hey, come out with me. Okay, fine. I'm going to come out with you. I tell him, hey, for my safety, I have to meet you out somewhere. I'm old fashioned. I don't mind a gentleman picking me up, but for safety reasons, we need to meet out in public somewhere, because Atlanta is ghetto. Whoever said dating is ghetto, Atlanta is ghetto.
Yes, it is. I used to live there. I know.
Oh my gosh, yes. So offline, many stories to tell about just my last week. So I meet him. I type it in and I pull up, and it's a high-rise building, and I'm like, I know this is not his house, because we said a public place. Mm-hmm. Now, I lived in a high-rise at the time. It had a restaurant in the lobby. So I said, well, maybe he's taking me to the lobby restaurant. A little bit lazy, but okay, I'll go. I get there. This man has on a mesh shirt with his nipples hanging out. He's holding a bottle of liquor. He proceeds to drink the liquor. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with you. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this at all. I'm negative. So I proceed to just leave in this date. I go on a date with my backup date. And I move on.
You had a backup date?
Yes, I've learned to stack my dates. So, I go with my backup date. I go on about my business. You know what? He was West Indian. I'm reading a comment that says that mentioned a particular group, and I try to give my West Indian people a break. I'm West Indian, but it is a little dicey. This man actually was West Indian, and I ran into him like 7 months later, and he proceeds to pick me up again, not recognizing. I'll never forget him with that mesh shirt, because he's like 6'8".
Oh my God!
So nipples are eye to eye with me. It was a mess.
Right on those nipples.
He proceeds to try to pick me up again. He tells me I look familiar. I look like what did he tell me, Kim? That my people, I look like, no, he said he recognizes where I'm from based on my facial features. My forehead looks like I'm from Wakanda. I said, Wakanda is not a real place. You do know that, right? I'm going to pause, because we could be here all night.
I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
things
real life
after.
situations, real
These are
life
real,
situations.
and this all happened within like a period of like a month.
Yes. And
And
let
so,
me just add this, that one of the most important things, especially when you're going through a transition of dating, and I believe we would do this for each other, but it's important to have friends that will screen your dates.
Yes.
We should have had a screening service, an investigative service, because we have several girlfriends that have gone on dates, and we made sure that Crystal and I would put together literally decks of the things that we find concerning. So,
Oh my God. When I attempted online dating for a 30-day period, Erica was a part of that process with me. Kimmy was a part of that process with me. And I'm like, oh, check this guy out. Okay, I've been communicating with him. Kimmy's like, girl, I think I've seen his picture like 50 times over on other profiles. And then Erica's like, wait a minute. That's the same guy who connected with me, but his name is Jerry. And I'm over here, his name is Paul. And I'm like,
yes.
what is
And I
happening
saw him
here?
on Instagram.
Yep,
So
Kimmy
I'm
saw him on
like, nah,
Instagram.
this is, but it's so funny. I had an experience online dating, and it was actually a gentleman here in Tampa. And it was so funny because we connected. We really did. We connected online, and we met up more than once, maybe twice, that we actually met up and we went on a date. Now, it's very important that you ask the right questions. And I think sometimes we don't dig deep enough, because he told me about being married and all of these different things, no longer being with his wife and all of these types of things. But I think the second time we went out, and it was in a very short period of time, because it was one of those things. And I tell women all the time that a man that is really interested, he will begin to make plans with you even at the first date.
Yes.
He wants to know the next time when he's going to see you again.
Absolutely.
And he's going to want to make plans right then. So that's how this gentleman, so it was like in the same week's period that he was like, look, I want to see you again, whatever. And so the second time around we were talking, and so I asked him, I said, well, when did you get divorced? And he said, when was your divorce finalized and everything? And he said, oh, I'm not, we didn't go through the actual process. We're not divorced. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. It was nice. It was fun. But yeah.
Like, how long was that time frame that you were dating him before you asked that question?
And see, and I guess that's the thing too. We really have to define dating. I know Chris and I were talking about this, right? Because I think there's a difference in exchanging information and getting to know someone and perhaps befriending them and quote unquote dating. I think, especially at this case where I am now, it's more about purposeful dating for me, right? And again, my online experiences were very short. I think I stayed on that one site that for like a week, maybe a week and a half. That was it for me. And I met this one gentleman, but I would say it was in a 2-week time frame.
Okay.
2-3 week time frame, somewhere up in there, that we kind of went back and forth. And then I finally decided to meet him. And then once I met him, he was wanting to set up, a number of different dates and stuff. So, but yeah, you have to do the necessary screening, right? And some people are against online dating, but I think it's no different than actually meeting a person in person these days,
Yeah. And unfortunately, the world that we live in now, it's almost like you have to at least try once, right? At least try online dating, because when COVID hit, we kind of went into this virtual society, and some people never came out of it. And so if you're in a space where the majority of your life is spent virtually, you don't have opportunities to get out as often as you did before, then where else are you going to meet someone? I mean, I do know someone who the UPS man came to her door and she ended up dating him,
Yes.
and it was a great experience for her. And I'm like, man, where's my UPS guy? Because I'm waiting for that to happen for me, but it hasn't happened yet, because I don't get an opportunity to go out as often as I used to in the past. And I'm just thinking, how outside of online dating would I meet someone? I've been fortunate that I do meet guys through other people. So my friends will introduce me to people. That's how I've met people, or people from my past will come back. But those things are short lived, and I end up in situationships, and then I'm frustrated, and I'm like, I'm just gonna stay over here in my corner, and I'm just not gonna go out anymore, right? Now,
Yeah.
Michelle, you said that you've been single for like 30 years. You haven't really been dating. So tell us a little bit about kind of why you've been in that space of not dating.
I went on maybe 2 or 3 dates, and it was from friends of mine saying, "Hey, meet this guy." My downfall is when a man, you meet them, you could be having a great time, and then they start talking about sex. And I'm like, "You don't even know me. We have not had a conversation." And it's a complete turnoff from me. And that has happened with, I think, these 2 or 3 people that I have met. My other thing is, I've tried the online dating, but I don't feel it's for me at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another turn off for me. Just some of the people I see on online dating, I'm like, I would not go out with you. And then the thing is, with what I do, I don't get to meet that many people. I don't go out that much,
Yeah.
to meet somebody. So the downside to that is, hey, well, how else you going to meet somebody? Try online dating, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then again, it's not for me. So honestly, I just look at life for me. I'm just going to be single. And not that I want that,
Yeah.
but that's what I see, honestly.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
have another friend. She's over 60 as well. And she's actually been married a couple times and divorced 3 times. So she was married to the same person twice, and
Mhm.
she divorced him twice. And then she was married before that. So she's been married 3 times and divorced 3 times, right? And she's over 60 now as well. And she's just in a space where she's like, the trauma that she sustained from the things that happened in the marriages and then the divorce has put her in a place of, I just don't even want to date anymore. I'm over it. I'm tired. I'm over 60. What's the point? And for me, I felt like, one, you have so much to give. You're an amazing woman. And I don't want to see the traumas from those past relationships put you in a place where you are not even emotionally available when the right person does come, right? Because I've been married and I've been divorced. And yes, I had a lot of trauma from that divorce, but I had to go through a healing process to even
Right.
get to the place where I would be open to dating. And when I got to that place and I began to date, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool, you know? And I enjoyed it. And it didn't result in anything. I did end up in one relationship for like 2.5 years. Then I ended up in a situationship for 3 years, which was stupid, right? Because we get ourselves into these places where you're older and you just think, you know what, gosh, maybe I'm not really gonna find someone. So I'm just gonna sit over here with him. And in that situation, he was married, had been separated for like 8 years. I knew that he was not with his wife because they lived in two different, parts of the state, and shared a child together, and just had the craziest reason for why they were still together. And because I liked him so much and I enjoyed the situationship, I just stayed, and off and on for 3 years. And finally I got to a place where I'm like, this is really not going to go anywhere. And
Right.
3 years later you're still married. Doesn't make any sense. Then you tell me, okay, I'm going to go through the divorce process. You start the divorce process, but a year later, you're still in it. And I just felt like I just can't do this anymore. Right. So I had to make the decision that I was just going to cut that off and move on. But then you get to a place where you're like, okay, now I cut that off. I really liked him. Now, I kind of shut myself off again.
Same. I was in a similar situation as you, situationship, and with a gentleman that was my friend, and same situation where he had a child and they were not together. And he was very good to me. We were really good friends. And it was one of those things where I just ended up dating him. And he was very supportive of me, always there. I mean, literally, there are just certain things that when you look for companionship, he provided all of those things to me. Yet, I was at a place during that time in my life that I didn't really understand I didn't know my identity.
Yeah.
And so with me, I was still dealing with father fractures. And so even though he was a great guy, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And why should I believe that I should come second to anyone?
Ooh.
And so it got to a place where in that moment with him, I decided, no, I have to break away from this. And there was so much that I experienced with this man. That's another whole topic within itself. But I gave so much and I lost, although maybe not financially.
Yes.
I lost even a child as a result of being in this relationship.
Yeah.
And so I think even from the perspective of going through that process and healing, and then even engaging, with the guy online and meeting him, that was a trigger for me. It was like, oh no, absolutely not. exit stage to the left. Like, dude, we don't even have to talk anymore. Because at this point, here it is years later, and that's a definite no for me, because I'm at this place, a healed version of myself.
Yes.
Right. So that is not acceptable. I don't care how much of a good guy you are. I don't care how much of a great companion you are. I know there's a certain standard that God has for me.
Yes.
And I'm not going to compromise any of that. One person, you hear me, one bad mistake can throw your entire destiny off.
Jesus. Yes.
One wrong choice can mess up your entire destiny. And so I had to make the decision, was it going to be about my feelings, or was I going to trust God and faith in who he created me to be? If I was going to stay in my feelings, it would have kept me bound to, staying in a place of stagnation. Or was I going to trust God and move in a place of faith and surrender my will to my complete life, my agenda to him and what he had for me?
Yeah.
And so that was just something so important. So yes, I totally understand what you transitioned through, because I went through a similar situation. So again, for me, even on the dating scene, if it does not look like the standard that God has for me, which he told me who that man was supposed to be, I don't care preferences and all. Look, there are certain preferences that the kid has, right?
Yes.
I like men that have beards. I like tattoos. I like, there are certain preferences.
Yes.
And so the enemy is busy because he'll show me all my preferences.
Always come in our path. Like, oh,
he'll show me the muscles. He'll show me the muscles, everything, right? And I'm like, look, I would be doing both of us a disservice to enter into something that I know God did not ordain.
Yes, absolutely.
I would be doing both of us a disservice. Doesn't matter how good of a guy he is, doesn't matter his position, his money, none of that. I am dating for destiny. Oh God, that's good. I am dating for purpose.
Yes.
I am dating because I know my husband's assignment, moving in that direction. And so anyway, I can go on.
I love
it. I absolutely. I wonder, and Eric, if you were about to say something, I don't want to.
No, go ahead, Chris. I was just saying that.
As we walk down this path of thinking about us connecting as we get older, part of the theme I'm hearing is, in addition to selection, trauma and how that shows up in our relationships. And I think that one thing I've noticed about my most recent relationship and how I approach that compared to the others is I had to really do a lot of work on myself to address certain things. Because I think, and this can be a little dicey, so I'm going to carefully tread down this path. I think sometimes we see ourselves as amazing. We are just amazing, but we have to remember we're not dating ourselves, we're dating men. So, have we addressed trauma, triggers, how we show up? Or are we bringing all the baggage from the prior person over to the new person, and then the new person's like, no, so I think sometimes as you're dating older, part of what you're working through is resolving some of that trauma so you can show up with the same lightness and openness and readiness to receive whatever the gentleman is bringing your way. Yeah. And I see this happen often where, especially when you're in your 40s, you're usually later in your career. A lot of times, most of my friends have pretty demanding careers. So you're deeply in your masculine energy. You're not really sitting in your feminine. Maybe you've got some trauma along with that. So it's kind of part of what we have to think about too, in addition to just how do you even meet someone once you meet them, how do you make it? How do you continue forward? Because even if you have the most amazing man cross your path, you got to be your best self in order for it to really work and go forward. And so I think
Yes.
that's something that women have to really think about, because that's some work I had to do. I had to realize that I might feel like I'm amazing, and maybe I was from a career perspective, but how I was showing up in relationships was not amazing.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so I had to work on myself and make some adjustments. And I
That's
learned a
so
lot.
good.
And Ricky should not have to carry Ronnie's rocks.
Right.
Yes.
He should not have to carry the baggage from Ronnie that you're continuing to carry from relationship to relationship, and you're bleeding on people.
Yes.
But that's what I hear from a lot of men. And I have brothers, and I just hear they don't, that pushback over dealing with somebody else's baggage. And it's, as we think about dating, particularly at our age group, it's like, are we thinking about how we're showing up to men?
It's so good that you say that, because I remember years ago, I think I was in I want to say in my 30s, and I had a friend that she was married, and I remember her going to church, and she came to my house after church, and she was like, "Girl, that sermon today was for you." We didn't go to the same church, but she was like, "You needed to be there because the sermon was for you." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because the pastor was talking about how, as people in general, but most specifically women, we can have a magnet on us, right? And the magnet is going to attract to us that thing that's broken in us." And she said, "And I believe that's what's been happening to you, why you keep attracting the wrong guys." And I really had to sit with that, because what I realized was I was operating from a place of rejection, abandonment, father wounds. So I was always seeking that man that was going to kind of fill this void that I, had from my father not being in my life, and feeling rejected by my father. And so there was just this magnet on me that attracted men who were very similar in nature to what I understood my father to be. Everyone told me my father was a womanizer. And so I attracted men who cheated all the time, right? And so I had to do that work. And it was over years that I had to do the work to kind of figure it out. And it's even into my now being 50, where I still have to sit down and kind of, reflect on things and look at, well, where did I make some mistakes on my part? Where am I still dealing with rejection, right? Where am I still dealing with abandonment? Is the magnet still there? Right? Which the blessing is, I feel like it's not, because I haven't been encountering the same types of guys that I encountered years ago, but I've still not found the right guy yet. Right? So I'm constantly in a state of working on myself. And so I love what you said, Crystal and Kim, because it really is important for us as women to do that deep dive and figure out what is it within us, because it's not always about the man, because we literally could be turning off the right man because we have not healed within our own selves.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of reiterate what Kimberly kind of brought out and Crystal was able to piggyback on, and that's the question of how important is it to understand your identity and also understand the true purpose for marriage, because that's going to dictate especially how it is that you go about dating, what it is that you're looking for, how are you connecting to people. Because if you're connecting for the sake of connecting because you want to get married and you have no real, you're not really tuned in on why God created the institution of marriage in the first place, then you're going to be misdirected in who you allow in your life and what you focus on. And it was one of the things that God told me, because I went through a series of situations where I was like, God said that was my husband. And I was like, God, why didn't that work out? I thought you said that was my husband, blah, 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 blah. And recently, it was like in the past year or so, God was like, you didn't even know who you were. So if you would have found yourself in a marriage with someone and you had to pretend your whole life, like that would have destroyed you, because I hadn't even come into the full understanding and knowledge of who he created me to be. Everything I do now operates from that place, or comes out of that place. What I do for work, how I interact with people, who he created me to be shows up. So if I wasn't clear and had an understanding of who he created me to be, that would have been stifled. I would have been a chameleon in my relationship.
If we were in the same room, I'd run around in a circle right now because that was some good stuff.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
So that is exactly like the imposter syndrome, right? Because it's like, or I think I was speaking to someone and she said, being, that's you're actually, you would entered into something where he was married to your representative and not you.
Yes.
And so one of the things that and I'm gonna be brief with this. The last relationship that I was actually in, I was in with this gentleman for a year, and I know still to this day that he, without a shadow of a doubt, God never told me that this man is not my husband. And so I never came out of agreement with it. I'm trusting God. What I do know, I'm trusting God, and I know people can forfeit their promise. I know that we have free will and we make our own choices. But I do believe that God will use situations to also be able to deal with those levels, those layers, or those things that you're still dealing with, right? And I know for myself, as we're talking here about, we're all talking about trauma and all of these different things. And I know Stephanie mentioned things about her father. One of the things that God showed me, because this gentleman told me specifically that God had told us to separate, right? He told him that we needed to separate. Now, although it was very unconventional of how this all happened, it was, Stephanie knows specifically, like, my relationship with him. And so we were all just kind of thrown off. I do believe it was needed because at the same time, I did not know my identity at the time. I was looking at this man, even, he would cover me in prayer. He was there, very supportive. He protected my purity, all of these different things. I would go to him instead of going to God. And so God said that I positioned him in the wrong place. And so over time, God began to show me that when we separated, rather than me being in a place of flow, I literally fell into a state of abandonment, feeling abandoned. And he gave me a dream one night that I was in a grocery store with him and his children. And I had developed a relationship with all of them. His mom, we all had a good relationship. And so here it is, we're in the store and him and his kids were walking ahead of me. And as they're walking, I'm running and trying to catch up with them in the dream. And so God literally in the dream, I'm running behind them, trying to catch up with them. And God showed me that as I'm walking, I noticed that I'm holding someone's hand as I'm walking through the store. And so as I'm thinking to myself, whose hand am I holding? And so I looked down and it was me when I was a little girl.
Ooh.
And so he was showing me that I had a father fracture. What happened, although he was being used for this situation, it started with the root of rejection and abandonment from my father. So he said, Kim, you need to go back and heal from that. And so over time, within this period of time, God has been showing me what fathering is. Me being able to embrace him truly as being able to be my father, him being my father, releasing my father from my expectation of who he should have been. And I constantly tell people, if your father is still living, get to a place where you can talk to him, good, bad, and different, because it's hard to forgive from the grave. I can't have these conversations with my father now because he's not here. So I tell people to heal from that state because God had to renew. He not even fix my heart. He had to give me a new one. He had to give me a new heart. He had to literally do open heart surgery, do surgery on me and give me a new heart, because my dad was able to. What I had to realize is my dad loved me from the capacity that he had, because he had his own issues. He had his own challenges, right? But God said, I am your father. I invited your parents to be at the table with us. I am your father. And so when I got to the place of really understanding that, it began to change the way that I thought about marriage and relationship. But most importantly, it began to change me. It began to change me. So I just wanted to kind of say that God uses situations to get us to the place that he needs to get us. For me, he continued to tell me, I am chipping away the things, the limitations, the hurt, the pain, to bring you back to the initial intent of who I always wanted you to be.
Yeah.
I'm bringing you to the place of who you always needed to be. So in that is very painful, but it's a reason that's necessary. This whole process to get you to the place that I always wanted you to be. So anyway,
Michelle, I wanted to ask you, you were just in relationship with someone for a period of time.
Yes.
Okay. And since exiting that relationship and having, a few dates here and there, do you feel like there's anything from that past relationship, any residue from that? Because that was maybe the longest term relationship. You have a child from that person. Do you feel that there's residue from that still kind of lingers with you, that's put you in a place where you may not be able to yet attract the purpose partner, the destiny partner that you desire at this stage in your life?
This is very touchy for me. Let me start before my daughter's father. I had a great relationship at a young age with a great friend of mine because we're still friends. I was 15. This man was 21. I was shocked when I look back that my parents allowed it. But it was like he was in the neighborhood, met through friends of ours, because where I grew up in Brooklyn, it was like everybody was great friends. I am still close to him, even though things happened. I think I was running away from stuff because I feel I should have never got in that relationship. Because he
Mm.
was not the type of man that I ever wanted to be with. And I feel that internally it was said to me not to be with him, but for whatever reason I stuck with him because it was an abusive relationship, physically, mentally, and everything. I really went through a lot. And I'm just thinking when y'all was talking about fathers, growing up in my household, my father was abusive to my mother. And I was like, how did I end up with a man like that? But then when I look at certain scenarios at the end of, my father's life, when I was there for him because he got really sickly and I had to take care of him. And we was able to talk and have a conversation and sort of get to an understanding. But the thing I didn't like at the end of his deathbed, when I asked him, why was you so abusive to my mother? It was like, oh, I never hit her or something. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're on your deathbed
Wow.
and you're not giving us the full story, because it
Yeah.
was me and my brother there. And me and my brother just looked at each other like, we grew up in this house. We seen what happened. But, after that, it was just looking back at how I ended up with my daughter's father, somebody else that was abusive,
Mm.
which, it still bothers me, even though my whole thing was, I finally got to the point where I had to go. And you can see your child whenever you want. But I think after that, it was just meeting other men that, if they did not live up to the standards of the guy I was with prior, because me and the guy, when I met him at a young age, we was together for like 10 years. We were supposed to get married and all of that.
Yeah.
But I look at it that I have never met anybody with his qualities. I mean, he was really caring. He was not an arguing type of person, all of that. But, life just happens. But I guess for me, certain things will just turn me off about somebody and I'm just done because I don't ever want to be in a negative relationship. That's the best way for me to say it.
So do you think that it's, in some ways, do you think that it's related to a level of fear? So because you had been in that type, Kim be like, girl, you about to make me jump.
I'm about to
I was
look.
waiting off mute to jump right in there, and I didn't want to cut you off, Stephanie.
But, do you feel like maybe you're still operating from this place of fear? And so when we operate in fear, it will close us off to possibilities, right? So the minute someone says something and that jolts you, or it triggers you, you're like, oops, I'm done. I can't do this. And you move on rather than trying to process it to understand, where is this coming from? Let me work this thing out. Let me make sure I'm healed in this space. And if I'm not, let me do my healing so that I can understand if this person is here to hurt me, or if this person is someone that I'm actually supposed to be in some level of relationship with, not necessarily dating, but who knows, friendship, right, whatever it might be. So do you think fear could be a part of it? And ladies, jump in anywhere, because I know y'all got hype. So I want to make sure y'all
see. Mine's is, thank you for that, Crystal. I don't feel that it's fear because I'm trying to think back as to the relationships I've been in since I've been here in Florida, and I've been here in Florida like 20 years. But the men that I've met, it's just things that they say and do that's a turnoff. And I don't feel that you're respectful of women. And I don't like that. If you're not going to be respectful to us, then, you're written off. Because I think I had asked this one man one day, and I was like, is this something women that you're meeting like, for you to talk to them this way? And that's why I'm like, maybe I'm old school, in which I wasn't raised or brought up that way by, the men in my life. And they have told me some women, they like to hear that stuff. But me, the way I was brought up was much different by the men. And I mean, we're still close knit to the men from our neighborhood and all of that. And they brought us up to be respected. So I don't think it's a fear, I just don't want to deal with a man that disrespectful. That's the only thing I can say with certain things from what I've been through, being abused physically, verbally, and even abused at a young age by men. Yeah. Even a family member, so that's why I guess I keep away and cut off people.
No, so I'm and let me just say, I have been delivered, because 20 years ago, I would not even open my mouth to dare say this. I was so embarrassed by my past and my childhood and everything I had been through. And then I realized I was wearing the shame on my shoulders that didn't belong to me. If anybody should be ashamed, it should be the people who put a child in that particular situation, and not me walking around living in shame over something I had nothing to do with. I just literally was an innocent child that was thwarted into a bad situation. And so that in itself is growth. But I will say that I too witnessed, not with my father, but with my stepfather and mom, domestic violence, horrible domestic violence, and insecurity. Mom had a drug problem. I mean, it was almost anything you can come up with, I've lived through. I was in foster care. Like, I've literally been through, and this is all before 10, just complete and total instability. And I think what happens is when you grow up in an unstable situation where you see abuse, where you are abused, or where your needs aren't protected at that pivotal age, and you have zero control as an adult, you attempt to control your outcomes. And what I was doing, and I don't know, Michelle, if this applies to you or not, but what I personally was doing is I would, because I was broken and unhealed, not delivered, not at peace with my situation, hadn't worked on any of the trauma bonds are real. And I would be drawn right back to what felt comfortable. I would actually feel uncomfortable if it was somebody that was decent, that was going to treat me right, because I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't know what it felt like to be in a normal, sane situation. And I joke about it now because I'm telling you, it's crazy. But I literally felt discomfort and repulsed almost by a normal, everyday, non-abusive, mentally stable man. And so it took a while to figure that out. That I would literally find the good guy and I would be like, oh, he's boring, he's this. And I'd be deeply caught up in the rapture with the person I have no business being bothered with. And so that was the first awareness I had, that I was caught and I was being pulled in like a moth to a flame, deeply codependent, deeply being drawn to what I was used to, which was chaos. So that was step one, to realize that. And I think, two, I had to start addressing what I'm going to call my codependence and my attempt to control everything. And this was manifesting in relationships, in school, personal life, everywhere. But we're talking about relationships now. And so I try to control. If the guy did anything, because this is me needing to be controlling, and now I'm trying to control being hurt. That's what I'm now trying to control. So if I think that I'm picking, now this is a perfect storm of crazy. I'm picking bad people. Then if you do anything, if you just put your toe on the line, and I think your toe shouldn't be on this line, I'm gonna cut you off before you ever have a chance to hurt me. And so I'm not being realistic. I'm being controlling, not waiting and letting the situation walk through. Maybe he's not gonna step over the line. Maybe he didn't even realize his toe touched the line. But I had to control being hurt, because nobody was gonna hurt me as an adult, because I've been hurt my whole life, and I'm tired of being hurt, and I just want to be okay. And I want to be respected. And I felt disrespected by that toe on the line. So you're gone. You're out of here. It was a running joke. I was a blocking machine in my 20s. I mean, everybody knew. You do anything. I was so bad. I literally was talking to a guy. He said something I didn't like. I hit the call block button while we were on the phone. And then when I hung up, because I just knew it wasn't going anywhere, I hung up. He called back, and yeah, I don't know. So we don't even need to talk about it. I'm gonna block you right now. You've already.
She's not lying.
I'm not lying. I'm like, no problem, block. so I had to really, that's why I said I had to do the work on myself. But so I say that to say, A, I had to be delivered from the trauma. B, I had to recognize I was extremely controlling, trying to control an outcome, but you can't control an outcome.
You cannot.
You cannot control an outcome. You can control decision making, but you can't control an outcome. And then I had to pray and ask, and I had to learn to trust my spirit of discernment, and that I knew how to pick decent people. And that was something I had to repair, because of course I'm picking all the crazy people. And then I'm just validating that everybody's in the world is bad, because I keep dealing with these bad people. Mm-hmm. And so instead of just approaching it totally different, so I just had to do some work. So I said that to say, I think that for me, it was recognizing that it wasn't a situation where there were plenty of respectable, decent men out there. I was not really giving them a chance. I was gravitating towards the one that were bad. And then because I'm living in trauma, the minute before something goes wrong, you're cut, because I'm trying to control so that I don't continue to be hurt in my adult life. And so just wanted to share those insights with you, because I don't know if you've had any of those experiences, but I know for me, I recognized how I was taking a lack of control from childhood, and I've shifted it to being exceptionally controlling in adulthood. And that's something I've had to work on. And, that's something I had to address, because when you meet the good guys, again, they don't want your baggage. A good guy will give you some space, but they don't want the baggage. They don't want to be punished because of, something that happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago in my case. And so I've just had to start to address some of that. So, my prayer for you is that you find that peace, and that you're delivered from what you experienced as a child, because there's peace on the other side once you get there. And I've got so much more peace and I forgive. And I resonate with what you say. The people in my family act like I was a Cosby kid. You bring up the childhood, I've learned, and I've been just distraught about it. And I had to learn they didn't have the tools to give me what I needed for peace. My mom didn't have those tools. She just couldn't. I think it was too painful for her to accept that you took your child and put your child when you were supposed to be her protector and you left her unprotected and these certain things happened to her. I don't think she has the tools to this day to truly face what she put me through as a child, if I'm being honest. And I don't think my dad has the tools to face the fact that he did not stand up as a parent should and pull me out of that. And so what I've just forgiven them, and I've accepted that they did what they could. They with the tools they had, they did the best they could. And that I am really focused heavily, and it's literally controlling my life, relationships in other places. But it's not me giving them that situation, that kind of power is not changing anything. And then I'm like, okay, you've already had your childhood, I don't want to say ruined, but impacted. You've let that impact carry into your 20s and 30s. At what point do you say, I refuse to allow this to continue to weigh on me? Or am I just going to take this on, you know, to my transition? And I just had to get to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to have to let that go. I'm going to have to accept and separate the person from what happened, decide to forgive them for myself, and then work on myself, because they're not going to give me peace. They're not going to give me relief. They just don't have those tools.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to share, this is how God works through me. I'm going to go back to what I said about my challenge, the transition from my ex, and what God showed me as it relates to the little girl that I was holding her hand. So one of the steps that God had me to grow through as a part of this process, I was literally in my room, Michelle, and God had me to go through different milestones of my life and revisit myself at different ages. And I had to do that because there were intricate things that happened at these different ages that I needed to go back and pick that girl up. I needed to go back and have a conversation with her. So I remember doing this time standing in a circle and literally holding the hands of my younger self and meeting them at the place where they remained and having a conversation with them to a point to say, you went through this, but you're going to make it through. You know, having those individual conversations. Because what was happening, though, prior to doing that little 5-year-old girl or the 15-year-old girl, there was something carved on her heart during that time that remained. There was a narrative that was carved on her heart that needed to be fixed. And so I say that to say that sometimes you have to revisit those different places in your life, because there are points in your life where that little girl is still trying to take control of where you are now. And so she's bringing you back to that younger age of when you were 15 and remembering that guy so you can remain in that state. Because at your point where you are now, he will not be able to have the capacity to carry you at a 15. The 15-year-old won't be able to do it. And so you have to go back and really think through some of those times and go back and pick that little girl up and tell her, I got to move forward. We got to go. Because I believe that it's not the end for you. I believe that there's a man that God created specifically for you. And I believe you have to get to a place of speaking it into your life that God has that man for you and you're willing to accept him. Because you're the one that does for everyone. Right? But who does for you? Am I being honest? Is this real? Right?
You being honest, because I know Michelle personally, she's always doing for everybody else.
So you're the one that covers everyone. Take care. You're there for everyone. But who's there for you? Do you think that God meant for your life to be that way? Absolutely not. The desires that he gave you long ago, they still remain, because guess what? They're not your desires, they're his. He placed them there So you have to go back and you have to change out that narrative. You got to go back and you got to talk to each of those little girls and say, look, I'm moving forward. Are you coming with me? Are you coming with me? And you have to place a demand on it because your future relies on it. Your destiny relies on it. And there is a destiny partner for you. And I won't accept anything less.
Amen. Ugh. There's another run around the room moment.
Kimmy got me tearing up in here. Stop.
The root of it is fear. The root of it is fear, and the enemy will mask it so you won't realize it. Deal with the root. The root of it is fear. He will try to mask it and make it look like freedom. It's fear.
I mean, I would have a lot more to say because I had to, I mean, just from a lot that I've been through. I mean, I'm just giving surface stuff right now, but I mean, I've been through a heck of a lot. And I've been through at one point consistent therapy to fix me, because that's what I knew I needed. And I couldn't have anybody acknowledge what they have done because they all thought, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, no, you're not. You need help too. But it was put to me at a young age, I don't need help. You just need to fix you. So I did work on me for a while. But then at one time, one person just judged that all back out of me when I was doing fine. And I'm like, why are you bringing this up? Why? You know, stuff that you're pulling from me that I did not need to face again, because I felt I worked on all of that. But, you know, things happen. But I look at times like Kimmy, you said, it's still, maybe still fear is there. But I'm at the point of my life now in which I'm like, I can't do any more for anybody. I have to do for me.
Yeah.
And I feel not saying it's true, but at times I do feel like I wasted so much time. It's too late for me to do me. But no, you're right.
No,
It's
because
not.
nothing's
You
ever
are
wasted.
very young
It's
still,
not too late.
and
I know
it's
he's
not
like,
too late.
no, you can still do this.
Yes.
You are very young still. It is not too late. And
No,
think of it this way: with therapy, so it's just like your hair might need a retouch if you're natural and you blow it out, and you might need to hit it with the flat iron one good time. Sometimes therapy is like that. I mean, it's not, and I'm not coming up here saying I went to therapy one time and all this trauma from my childhood disappeared. It did not. I've had moments. I've had to call Kim where I've been in the street screaming at everybody, I'm done with them. Don't call me. You're on block. You know, some people on block right now. You know, we're working through that. You know, it is a process. But I think the biggest thing you have to do is, I want you to feel hope. I want you to know that you can be married. You can have the desires of your heart. You can't control the people around you. You can't control your family. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned. I can't control these people. I'm just going to let them sit over there and be crazy and delusional. I'm going to focus on myself. And I just, whatever it takes, it's a combination for me, prayer and therapy, you know. But I think, yeah, I really want you to lean back into hope, because it is totally possible. You could literally hang up, go to the supermarket and meet somebody right now, but you just have to be in a space to receive that person, to trust that person. You got to be open to it. And so, you know, I want you to maintain some form of hope, because it's totally possible for you.
Yes, very possible. You can actually go to the grocery store, to the produce section, is what our behind the scenes producer is saying in the comments. You can go to the produce section and you can meet a man right there. It has happened to me, literally. I have gone and I was in the produce section. This was years ago. And this man started talking to me, and I'm literally thinking he just wants to talk about the fruit. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. He's talking about my fruit. Like,
Yes, no man wants to talk about fruit.
you know, but what Crystal said is so true. Like, you have to lean back into hope, Michelle, because you are literally only 62. You are still young. You are still beautiful. You are an amazing woman. Knowing you personally, and knowing how much you give of yourself to everyone. And it is your season to give to yourself. And in giving to yourself, your greatest gift is healing, right? Is to do just what Kimmy said, to go back and go to those milestone parts of your life and reclaim them, because we will give up ourselves. I've been through situations as well. And I was stuck at 12 years old until I was 44 years old. I was stuck at 12 until I was 44. Right. And so everything I did and how I lived, I operated from the 12-year-old little girl because I was gang attacked by 6 boys when I was 12. And so I operated from that because I didn't know anything else. And it wasn't until I was 44 and I went to a soul coach who literally took me through some exercises that I was like, Lord, I'm going to die right here on the floor.
Talking about D. Reed.
D. Reed.
D. Reed.
She dug some stuff up out of me and I literally was snotting and stuff was coming out of me because I had to purge what happened to me at 12 and I had to heal from that so I could get to a place where I wasn't just operating as broken little Stephanie. And I had to go back and get her. Right. And I remember Kimmy was with me and we did an exercise too, where I had to get her and it was painful, but I had to get her and then I had to comfort her and I had to let her know it was okay. And that we were going to step into the 44-year-old Stephanie and we were going to live from that place. And in doing that, it freed me in so many ways. And it wasn't a one-time thing. Just like Crystal said, it wasn't one time. I had to keep doing it. And I had to do it because I want to be in a place because, when I was 36, I think I had gotten married, still broken, right? And coming out of that marriage, broken, right? And I had to go. And even at that stage, I had to heal that part of me from going into a marriage that I know I shouldn't have been in the first place, having to go through that divorce, and then dealing with the traumas of that. I had to heal from that too. But it was all necessary because God has already told me that I have a destiny partner that he has created for me. But I have to be in a place of being fully and completely in love with him as my father first. And I appreciate Erica for sharing that with me because she was like, girl, don't make any man your idol. Right. So when I had to fall in love with God first and say, God, you are my first choice. And even if you don't bring anybody, I'll be okay because I still have your love. Because I craved the love of my father, my biological father, but the love I needed was always in him, was in the Father. And when I realized that, I recognized, you know what? Even if you don't send anyone, that void that I had is now filled, right? So I don't need the man to fill that void, but he is going to come along to be a partner in the work that God has called me to do. So I had to get to that place, right? So it's just and that's the whole point, I think, when it comes to dating and relationships, is a lot of time we just want to enter into stuff because we want companionship. We want, love. We want to be able to have someone to cozy up with at night. We want those things, be honest, right?
Yeah.
But it starts with being healed internally. Healing is an inside job. And when we can get to that place, then that magnet that we walk around with that's pulling and attracting the wrong things to us, that thing breaks. And now we're exposed and we're open to be able to receive the true good man that God has created for us, because he is out there. Right. And I heard somebody say the other day about women are going to have a hard time finding a man because there is a shortage of men. And I was like, God, people say the stupidest things and we'll lean on that and be like, it's a shortage of men. So you know what? I may not actually meet somebody because it's a shortage of men. I don't believe that. I'm like, I come out of agreement with that. Because if God said there's a man for me, there's a man for me. And I got to be patient and I got to do the work on me until he sends that man. Because he is going to encounter me. I don't know how, but when he encounters me, I got to be ready and I got to be prepared. Right? I want to switch topics really quick because this has been coming up a lot lately. I want to get your thoughts on dating outside of your race. I see Kimmy mouthing. I knew you was going to ask that question. So let's talk about that. Dating outside of our race. We are all African-American women. And I'm just straight up honest. My preference is to be with an African American man. That's my desire. It is my preference, you know. But I have learned I have to be open to what God's preferences are for me. So, ladies, what are your thoughts on dating outside of your race?
I think that Black women often, I, I think we are socialized to date within our race. That's just my thought, and I think it is difficult for us to step outside of our race. But I do believe that to have the greatest possibility of marriage, you should be open to other races because you don't know. I guess I just feel like you don't know what God has for you. He might be a Black man, he might be a white man, you know, you might be a Hispanic man. You just don't know. And I think if you are headstrong in the fact of nope, he must be, 6'4", he must be super brown skin, he must have this, he must have that. I think you may limit yourself. And so it is something that I had to kind of work with myself to be open to, but I am open to dating outside of my race. I think
Have
that
you?
I have dated outside my race, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
only one time.
One time.
And it's funny because people often say, I've not dated a white man. So I know culturally dating someone who is Hispanic, even though it's different, but similar in the sense of if you are from a group that, is non-white, you're more likely to experience racism,
Yeah.
discrimination. So I think there's some commonality there. But then there's also, uh, you know, differences between Black culture and other cultures. So
Mhm.
I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever is for my future. So I'm gonna see where it
Okay.
goes.
I like it. I like it. My very first boyfriend was Puerto Rican. So, you know,
Mhm.
I'm open. You know, I gotta be more open, I think, to other races. I'm not, I'll just be honest, I'm not there yet. Um, but I am getting there. I'm getting there because my desire is to be with the man that God said is for me. And that truly is everything that God says he is to be for me. And so if he comes in a different color, then I have to be able to receive that. And so I'm getting there. And that's why I wanted to ask the question. I know, Michelle, you had some thoughts on it too.
I would not mind testing the waters, I would say. I mean, I love my Black man, but I would not mind testing the waters. I mean, within my family, there's so many different nationalities within my
Mm-hmm.
families, you know. So I don't think I would have a problem at
Okay.
all, you know, meeting somebody else.
So I don't have a problem dating outside of my race. I mean, I know how I meet people. It's easier for me to connect with a person when I have the opportunity to observe them and I find things that I find attractive about that person. So when it comes to them approaching me, it's like they've already the ground has already been cultivated and it's an opportunity. It's like, okay, I can see this working, but it's like off face value. If all I gotta go on is how you look and your name and that's it, then I'll have to go with my preference. So that's why God always put me in a situation where I get to know the person first, and then I'm like, okay. So I'm not opposed to it. I just know how I operate.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What about you, Kimmy? I didn't know you had someone of another race trying to run you down in the street, literally.
So I've never actually dated outside of my race, but I had two gentlemen, one Spanish and one Caucasian. And I guess for me, my experience with the both of them, it was just, they were too much. It was just, oh my goodness. Like they were ready to walk down the aisle. Like it was just too overbearing.
Now, Kim, what about them being now? Again, this is a
Uh-huh.
stretch, but is it that they're being intentional and you weren't ready for that kind of intention at that point?
Ooh, Crystal.
Because a man that knows what he wants knows what he wants. And if what I found with men is when they're in a stage where they have gotten their life to a particular point and they're ready to be married, they're ready to be married. And usually when they meet that next woman that connects with them, that's who they propose to. This is why you'll find a woman that's been with a man for 10 years and then he'll turn around and marry somebody after 6 months because he finally hit that stage in life where he's settled and ready to be married. So I just asked that because I think we complain about, oh, this, every time Dick and Harry is difficult to deal with and he doesn't want to commit and they want to be in a situationship and they don't want to claim you and they're trying to make up fake stages. And then you meet a man who's like, listen, I'm trying to be married. That you can slow a man down. You can slow a man down at any given point and say, I love that you're in that stage, but I'm gonna slow you down. But I'm just asking that question because I feel like as women, we say we want one thing and then we get it and it's like, wait a minute, you're crazy. Slow down.
Crystal, what am I doing? I'm running around the room right now on that comment.
Running around the room. Well, okay, so I have to say with the one gentleman, he was up in age. And so for me, it was like one of those things that I think he was close to like 62, 61. And again, I think that's too much of an age gap for me. I'm I have it was too much of an age gap. I mean, for me, I'm in the ballpark typically of someone that's within my age range or younger. That's how it's been, and not to say that you should be open to trying new things, but yeah, he was 60, 61, 62. And the second guy, that's maybe I should have considered. This was a long time ago, so I was in a different place.
That's why I asked about where you were.
I was in a different place back then. Maybe if he, no, you know what? Because he'll call me tomorrow. He'll inbox me tomorrow. He'll inbox me tomorrow. I can't say that. I think these are two bad examples.
And that's okay.
I'm just being honest.
But I just want to say that though, because I do see that frequently. I see, women, we will get exactly what we want. And we're like, oh gosh, you're clingy. So one guy won't call us and then another guy will call us and he's clingy, so it's like, okay.
Good. That's good, Crystal.
This is good. That's very good. Yeah, that's very true.
What are your thoughts in regards to age? We hear it all the time. Age ain't nothing but a number. Is that true in your case when it comes to dating? Up or down? Younger than you, older than you? Erica.
So my thoughts on age is it depends on the maturity level of the person, because I believe that at a certain age, there are life experiences that are necessary for you to be at the same place that I'm at. Like there are certain things that I've already went through that I don't want to share that part, because I did that. As far as like older than me, I think it's about the maturity level, but also the youthfulness, because even though I'm 50, I still like do kiddie stuff. That's just my personality. I'm quirky. And it's like, if you could roll with me on that level and you not out here trying to be an old fuddy duddy, we'll see what happens. And it's also a level of attraction. Mm-hmm. So, that we just got to work with it. I can't cut you off, but there's just a level of attraction that we have to work with. And you have to give me time to soften up to you. Because if you come at me too hard, too fast, and I haven't had time to process to get to the place where I'm like, okay, this will work, it's gonna be a problem. It has been a problem in other situations. So that's what I'm saying. I know me.
For me, I've never dated anybody younger than me. It's always been somebody older. I mean, not by a lot, but 5-6 years. But it does come to I did date somebody younger. And it comes to the maturity level, just like Erica was saying. I mean, to me, age is just a number. As long as you're not 80, I'm not dating nobody.
Well, we see it all the time now with these young women who are with these older men, you know, and you're
If
like,
he's able to move around and jump around and do what I want to do, because I'm like Erica, I mean, I have 2 grandbabies, 2 and 4, and I be running around and jumping and climbing with them. If you can't do that,
yes, I agree.
I laugh because I have been catfished in both directions with somebody younger and somebody older. One guy was older than my mama, um, which was hilarious. That's a story for another day. But yeah, he got me good. So my opinion might be the unpopular opinion because I'll date an older guy. I said when I get back in the pool, I'm gonna put myself on silver singles because I'll be the young hotness on silver singles.
I
So
swear, Crystal, you crack me up.
I'm like, it's just a numbers game. Let me get on here where I'm the hot tamale. So that's just me. Now it can't be like Anna Nicole, where we roll up to our wedding in the wheelchair. But I would be open to someone who's older, younger, because I've dated younger a couple of different times. Probably not. I realized just while they're fun at that point where I'm at in my life and what I'm looking for, I'm not interested in a younger guy. So, but I would definitely date older.
I agree. I have a lot of the guys that I've dated have always been like a year or 2 younger than me. But one relationship I had outside of my ex-husband, which was one of my longer relationships, he was 7 years older than me. And I mean, but he was great. I mean, very, athletic, fun. Like we got to do a lot of fun stuff together. And so I would definitely date older, as long as you still, you're not frail and your bones are cracking and falling apart, and like Erica said, to an attraction level, the maturity level, because there's older men too who are very immature. And so being able to have that maturity level, and I'm not opposed to dating younger, but they just can't be significantly younger. I think 1-2 years, because we still kind of maybe have had similar experiences, I'd be open to that, but probably nothing younger than that.
So I already added, I think 62 is probably, that's a big age gap for me. But also I have a gentleman now that is trying to pursue me. He's 32. And so that's a 12-year gap. And for me, I would be doing him a disservice if I were to enter into a relationship with him. I'm not nowhere near where I used to be. And so at that point, you have to kind of ask yourself, like, a person is really, when you put yourself in that type of situation, they can end up resenting you if they're having to change for you, right? And I would never want to make any adjustments or change who I am for him and vice versa. It should never happen that way. So yeah, I think within the range, for me, a couple of years older, a couple of years younger. The guy that I was with for a year, he was 37 and he's 37 now. So, I mean, that's not a big, but 32 is a bit much. So, yeah.
Okay. I get it. All right. So final words, Crystal, if you were to speak to that woman, similar age range to you, wanting to date, doesn't know kind of either where to get started or dealing with some of those trauma bonds, what would you share with her as your words of encouragement?
Well, same thing, lean into hope. Do not give up hope. I think it's completely possible that at this age, you can find love and live a very fulfilled and happy life. Self-care and addressing self is so important. If you are moving in a direction of marriage or even just dating, you have to show up as your full, complete, healthy self. And I think the first task versus saying go hang out in Starbucks or here or there is look at yourself. Look at how you can pour into yourself, love yourself. That guy is going to love that person. A man can only love you as much as you love you. It's probably a better way to say it. And so, so I want you to take some time, particularly if you're not dating because of past bad experiences or because you don't feel worthy of a particular kind of person or whatever it is, and just lean into self, develop a plan to like really pour into yourself. If you need therapy, get therapy, pray on it. If you need a coach, get a coach. If you need a style makeover to feel like your best self before you get back out there, do that. But I just really want you to lean into taking care of yourself and addressing those things that may show up in a relationship later, whether that's your self-esteem, whether that's trauma from childhood, trauma from past relationships, um, or something else that can be bleeding into that next situation, because you have to show up as your best self to have the best probability of ending up in the type of relationship that you want.
For me, I would say that I believe and have learned and am learning that life should be lived in partnership with God in every aspect of life. And it's like, even in dating, even in the desires of our heart, that if that's not something that we can honestly do in the freeness of being in relationship with God, then that's an area that we need to check ourselves before we try to pursue dating, before we try to pursue marriage. It's like, if marriage is something that we feel we need, then that's an area that God wants to heal.
For me, I would say to them, focus on you, you know, and the other thing that comes to mind is free your mind, free yourself to understand who you are. Because if you don't understand who you are and know yourself, you can't be with anybody.
So basically, what the lady said, I just want to add to that. So Michelle, definitely identity. Crystal mentioned taking care of yourself, doing the inner work, doing everything that's necessary. Erica said a partnership with God. That is key. That's one of the most critical pieces, because if you partner with God, those other two things will fall in place. Lastly, when it comes down to creating a clean slate for people, I often give the whole representation of, I don't know if you all your grandparents had the older homes with the screen doors on them, the screen doors, the door before you get the door right outside the big door. One of the things is sometimes we place a wall up and not being able to accept, receive, being able to allow a person in, right? Because of fear, because of past relationships. I often tell people, don't keep, don't, when it comes down to that block, open the other door and keep the screen door there. That way you can see them, they can see you, and you can keep out the flies, the nets, all of those different things. But don't place a wall between you and the person. So be open to have that screen door so you can be able to, really experience a person to determine whether it's necessary to move forward with them. Yeah.
No more walls. I love it. And I would just say, to thine own self be true. Truly, get to know yourself and date yourself. Date yourself. Because in dating yourself, you get to discover, do I even like myself? Do I even enjoy spending time with myself? Get to really know who you are at the core. And it goes back to identity and all those things, but get to discover what you love about yourself. Because when you can understand those things you love about yourself, and I think maybe Crystal may have said this too, that person that you end up being with, that you're destined to be with, they're going to love those things too. So really just get to know who you are at the core. Be true to yourself, love yourself, date yourself, and discover all the things about you that make you beautiful, unique, awesome. Because when you know that about yourself, that's what you're going to attract into your life. I am Stephanie Outen, and this has been She Speaks. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time speaking with these ladies about dating over 40, relationships, love, and just destiny, being able to set ourselves up for destiny, those destiny partners that God has created for us. And I'm just so thankful for your honesty, your transparency, just being able to share with each other in this sister circle, and being able to share with others who are going to see this, that there is hope, that there is success in dating over 40, and just truly love on yourself so that you can be prepared for that person that's going to come love on you. So thank you all for joining me. Good night, ladies.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.